Hello and welcome to another Six Sages Gaming set review video. Today we're going to be talking about Earth, and I am joined by the fabulous Joesephyr. How are you doing today, man?
Heyo. Yeah, no, I'm not too bad. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. I am very happy that we finally had got some time set aside. As you guys know,
Yeah,
he
me
does
too.
wonderful card alters. He has a Twitch for all that. So of course, I'm going to drop a link to his channel in the description and also in the comments. Please make sure to give him some love as well.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it's been all good so far.
Yep. And again, we still I think you should still put up a couple of those in the trade groups, but that's another discussion we can have.
Oh, actually, I actually have them right next to me. In all fairness, like I haven't actually done anything with them yet, but
Oh,
I
hold it.
probably should.
Yeah. It's a
But
nice.
I have no idea. Like people have said that they wanted to buy them and stuff like that, and I have no idea how much you charge for something like this, to be quite honest. So, if anyone has any ideas, then do tell me. Send me a message on YouTube or Facebook or anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. If you guys are interested in checking out some of his alters, obviously he has a Facebook page as well, the same name, so that works as well. Check out his cards, let him know. Otherwise, drop us a comment, and we'll try to get you guys hooked up with some sweet alters.
I would say there are other videos like related to the TCG as well. It's not just all the altars.
Right.
But
So
yeah, no, there's a lot to look at that should be nice and pretty for you people.
And with that, we are of course here to talk about the Earth cards, going in the order of Mognet, not any other kind of fancy order, just numerical. And up first we have Ursula, which we can talk about this card a little bit, but I think it makes more sense when you see Yang. So I like this card. I'm gonna hold my comments until Yang. But Joesephyr, do you have anything on it you would like to add?
I it's not a card I would run, if I'm honest, because I have a lot of difficulty with cards that refer to specific other cards. I like ones that are more sort of generally useful. I think that what she gets out of having Yang available is very, very nice, and she's not like I don't think she's bad, but I think that she without Yang next to her, if she because she refers specifically to having him, you never have to target Ursula. You just target Yang instead.
Yep.
And that's simply the reason why I wouldn't run her. Like my two CP slot with Earth would more often than not go to Seraphy, and I don't see Ursula taking her place for me anytime soon.
I could see that. I'm excited for the card strictly for mono Earth, and I think that of course with the start of every new set, and of course here in the states we're delayed by 2 weeks, so everyone else gets the head start on us. But I can definitely see it in a mono Earth list. But outside of that, I think it's going to be interesting to find where this card lands. But again, we will bring that up a little bit more once we get to Yang, since that's where the real discussion is going to happen. A summon that I am very excited about because I had played Earth a little bit and it just was lacking. I don't want to say relevant summons because certainly Golem and Titan, those are fine summons, but Atomos, I believe is how you pronounce that. It's the not to undervalue Odin, but this is the Earth Odin in my opinion. Your forwards are always going to be stronger than your opponents. And Earth is very much known for having those 9 or 10k bodies, so I think that this card is going to see a lot of play, and I'm very excited to see where it shapes up.
I've yet to actually run Atomos in any of my decks. It's interesting to hear you say that because it's not something that I jumped on, but because I think that Ralban kind of covers your bases for this kind of effect already. I don't. Again, I like the card. I don't think it's got. I can see where your comparison point to Odin is, and I think that I could probably see myself running one or two copies of it. But I think because Ralban already does the same thing, if you're running a lot of large scale forwards, which Earth is prone to doing, then yeah, I can definitely see this card seeing some play. It is good, definitely.
Right. And that's a very important note there is depending on what Earth is going to be paired with. And again, in Mono Earth, absolutely see this, getting some playability to it. But we're finally getting to a point, and I think we will be there with Opus 3, where it is very tough to make these decisions on what summons you want to run in what decks, unless you have something like Rare Una, for example, that reduces all the cost of water. So even if you're in a dual element deck, you're going to be more gravitated towards the water summons when you have Una, just because making them cheaper is certainly very powerful. Another quick note, and we will cover this card in a little bit. I do also like this, in theory, as a one of because Rydia can tutor for it. So I think
Mm.
what Rydia is going to do is going to open up that decision tree a little bit more.
No, I agree with that.
Moving on to Mannequin Love, Horror of Antiquity, which is interesting.
I think it suffers the same problems as a lot of the other cards, is that our 2 CP slots for Earth have kind of already been taken. Um, it's a mannequin, which means it has synergies with, X-Death and Kefka's mannequin and things like that, which is a thing. But obviously, in a game like this, you want to run 3 copies of this card. Running 3 copies of a card that requires having additional copies of itself like this is mandatory. And
Yep.
I tend to kind of prefer flexibility in my decks because there's no sideboard in Final Fantasy. So like, running 2 of certain things. Like I don't run I mentioned Seraphy earlier. I very rarely run 3 copies of her. I'll only ever run 2. Ursula, has a lot more to gain than Horror of Antiquity does, but being a unit you can run more than one of, maybe she'll see play. I can't write her off because she's on curve for 2 CP at 6,000 power, but she's just not my first choice, basically.
I can agree with that. And another card that we're going to talk about here in a few cards is Scar Million, I believe is how you pronounce it. I always mess it up. If we're to compare the cards, they both require you to have another copy in your hand, and when Scar comes back, he gets to potentially, I mean, almost always should get to kill something off its special ability. So
Yeah.
I see this in a mannequin deck if we somehow push in that direction. Um, Actually, if I'm not mistaken, this was the first Earth forward mannequin, so you could do a Golbez X Death mannequin. Two
I
drop
was say,
down.
that sounds like a mess waiting to happen.
Uh, but I know someone's gonna try it, and I think this does feel the last element that you needed for a 2 drop. So, yay, being cheeky with that, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true.
I will say, trying to make a bad card work though, I don't think I don't think it's worth it.
It's not my first pick. It's the polite way I would put it.
I think I'm gonna have to steal that phrase from you. I think I'm gonna. That's a nicer way of putting it. Now, a card that I am certain is going to be seeing play in every single Earth deck, and now it might only be a one of, is Masked
Yeah.
Woman.
Yeah,
And
good
this
card
is
is good,
it's really just the Earth version of Seymour.
and
A
it's
little
cheaper.
a little bit different in the cost and kind of the effect, but in the same way that almost every Lightning deck ran a one of Seymour, I think we're going to see a one of Masked Woman, if not two, really.
I think I like one because I mean, Mustadio from Opus One is probably just going to fall off at
Yep.
this point. Raban again is Earth's kind of primary functional removal. Masked Woman backs him up really nicely because it's just you also have Machinist as well, the FF14 Machinist from Opus 2 that can do removal and remove itself from the board at the same time. So it's just proving to have like a really nice backup suite of forward removal, and it's nice just to see it kind of bulked out a little bit. And Masked Woman's just a solid card.
Absolutely. So, yeah, if you're playing Earth, you're playing this card. I think we can agree on that.
I think there are situations that you wouldn't run it, but it's definitely a good pick wherever you go.
Certainly. And this is where I thought it was kind of interesting. So for those that remember, Joesephyr had won a very early, and I forget what the event was called, so forgive me on that. But
It was called the Square Enix Opus One tournament.
oh, that they didn't. I thought they had a special name for it. But it was held at
If
the
I did, then I don't
headquarters.
remember it.
And what's interesting to note is he had played a Ultimacia Brave based deck called Save the Queen. If you really want to, you can also see that older now video on his channel.
Well, I'll be updating that soon.
Awesome. So look forward to that too. But there are a number of Earth cards in this set that also have Brave, and it really plays well into that strategy. And the first one that we have is Goluf, which is interesting, but I think it's mostly going to be seeing play in Earth Water because it really wants you to have 5 cards in hand. But I think this card does have potential to be played. What's your take on it?
I think the issue with Galuf is the same issue that a lot of 5 CP units have, is that the number of slots you can allocate to 5 CP plus units is so limited, you have to be super strict on what you're going to run. And I'm pretty sure there's a card coming up fairly soon in this list that's probably going to be overwriting Galuf.
Yep.
He's not bad by any means. He is decent. I liken him to Garland from Opus One. He kind of has that same sort of thing.
Yep.
Like Garland has the immediate payoff, but he's 1K weaker, and Garland didn't really see that much play. I kind of see Galuf in the same region as him.
That's fair.
There's just there are just other units that are going to see play over him, basically.
And it is worth noting that, and I forget the lightning card's name. There is a lightning dawn warrior, and it starts with a K, and I'm
Oh,
complete.
Kelga.
There you go. That can play this card for free, so we might see a Earth Lightning
That's
um,
fair.
kind of deck, and that'd be my other kind of. I don't know if it's you want to play into the card draw, which is certainly more situational, takes a little bit more work, or if you just want to turn this into a kind of play for free tempo build. And that said, there's a lot of cards coming out in Opus 3 that either play something for free or allow you to get some kind of additional forward advantage. It's really interesting to see how the meta is going to evolve, and I'm really excited to see that, and hopefully see some more decks pick up in playability.
Yeah, no, it'd be nice to see any. It's always nice to see people think outside the box. So while I sit there and say that I probably wouldn't wear Galuf, I'd love it if other people did.
Right. And I think I will make a Dawn Warrior deck profile. I don't know a better way of. I don't know what else would be in there yet, truthfully. But I've been waiting for, and there was one that topped in Germany, so I want to at least mention that before someone gives me slack on it. There was a Naten Golbez Earth Lightning deck that topped in Germany, but I want to see more of that because I think when people put those elements together, there's just so focused on okay, I have to play Golbez because even when it dies, it's a 9K, so it's taking something with it, and then I get
It's
four
a card
forwards.
whose value is just difficult to argue with.
Right. I want to see more exploration in that and those two
Variety.
elements.
Mm.
But we'll see if we get there. Ironically enough, another 2-drop 6K. I'm just gonna give you this one if you wanna say anything about it.
So yes, so this is Kryl, and this is Galuf's granddaughter from FF5. She's yet another 2CP 6K unit, which is nice. She's on curve, but one of the things I dislike, as well as some of the other things I've mentioned in FFTCG, is forwards that are very reliant on S abilities that only have one copy of themselves. It's the problem I had with Jecht in Opus 1. Jecht is a half-decent unit that you're not going to get his S ability very frequently because there's only one version of him. And Kryl suffers the same issue. And because the 2CP 6K slot in Earth decks is already pretty heavily contended, her S abilities are both very good, but it's unlikely you're going to get them off with any consistency. And the fact that they're both different elements also sort of wavers her consistency as well. So unless you're running Fire, Earth, Lightning, which isn't a particular, tricolor decks aren't particularly popular, I don't think that Kryl is going to see much play, despite the fact that she is actually quite good.
I have to agree with everything there. It's just I want the card to be good because again, both effects are actually insane, and they can both be supplemental to either an Earth Fire or a Earth Lightning build.
But having not the other,
right? Yeah, it takes a bit more work than it's probably worth right now.
Yeah, it just limits her options, and it's just a bit. I could do better.
Exactly. Up next, then we have Kefka, which I know a lot of people are absurdly excited for. So the one thing I do want to note, both Kamari and Shantoto gain the elements. So yes, if you either have Shantoto in play, you get all these effects, or if you have Kamari and your opponent is playing whatever backups, those help towards the different elements as well. That said, it's nice that this can potentially be a 2-drop 8K or a 2-drop 9K even in a mono Earthless, but outside of that, I think probably one of the best things that this card has going for it is the art.
Yeah, I say the Dissidia artwork is just good, but I have to agree. I think that it's nice that people are excited because Kefka's a very popular character, but it's Shantoto or nothing, really. And honestly, Shantoto's a late game play, and this card's asking to be an early game play, and the two don't mix.
Right. And the other difficulty I have is I just really like backup Kefka, and then you're automatically cutting yourself off of that. So I'm not sure that it's worth it.
Anyone who's seen any of my videos knows how much I like backup Kefka as well. So it's like, no, sorry, I'm going to stick with that one.
Well, I'm glad we certainly agree on this one then. So
yeah, definitely.
There's probably a place for it, but with what you're losing by not having the backup Kefka and what you're betting on having Shantoto, which again I'm sure it's going to see play in Opus 3 still. It's a great card. This just doesn't do enough by itself.
I'd like to see people experiment with it.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, and then it's a 2-drop for Golbez. I should also mention that because I know that's the other thing that a lot of people were excited for. But
I think there's better.
Yeah.
Basically, I'll just say it. I think there's better out there than Kefka.
So
I
speaking
try
of
not to be too throat.
moving back to your point of 5 drop forwards that you have to be concerned with, and I'm not sure if this is perhaps the one that you meant wanted to talk about.
No,
Um,
this is not the one I meant.
okay, but I am very excited for this card because it has Brave. It is unfortunate it's a 5K, but you can potentially make it a 10K or I shouldn't say or make your opponents lose first strike. This is a very beefy. I mean, it's also Type 0, I guess, but it's a very beefy forward that really makes me want to see. And we'd have to pair this with some kind of maybe ramping effect or getting out all your backups early, but you can certainly start to build a wall around these Brave forwards. So I want to do some experimentation with that. And how relevant is first strike going to be? That's yet to be determined.
I think yet again, draws a very, very strong comparison with Opus One Garland. The other thing that I think is comparable with it, unfortunately for Black Tortoise, is the Fire Cloud that's in this set because he does very much the same thing. Is 2 CP
2 CP, yeah.
cheaper, and only one. And when you get his effects off, he's only 1K smaller. So in terms of value, that cloud just wins. And again, 5 CP units are a premium slot, so you have to choose very carefully which ones you're going to use. So if you're going to do this and you're going to pick Black Tortoise, I think the Brave has to be the focus of your deck.
Exactly.
And that's the only way that I would see him being played if your entire deck is focused around the Brave keyword.
Which it's certainly a very strong effect. And again, if we pair Ultimacia, there's some value there as well. But exactly to your point, is Brave going to be good enough? Can you build a deck around it? That has yet to be seen. How good that can be in Opus 3. Our next card backup is Summoner, and I've also included Sildra on the slide there just to give a point of reference of another sweet 6-cost summon that we got. I really love this card. I think that Earth needed another 2-drop backup, and I'm perfectly fine playing this.
Yeah, no, I like it too. I like any 2 CP backup that can destroy itself for an effect that's worthwhile. Because obviously, having only 5 backup slots available, late game you're going to want to be able to play different ones. And so, I liken this to Monk from Opus 2. It's nice to have an ability that's relevant.
Yep.
Summoner, I think I'd only run one of it, but I do like it. I think as you said, Sildra is a card that's very, very obviously quite strong with it. It just remains to be seen. I think it's one of those cards that a lot of people are going to play around with, and I'm curious to see what people do with it.
And I think the other note here too, it's not obviously restricted by the element, but it's also one of those cards that just get better as more sets come out. There was a Lightning Summoner that did the same thing, I'm pretty sure. A similar, not same, sorry. There's some other off-color one that did something similar. So again, these are cards that as every new set comes out, I'm going to go back and say, okay, well, what new 6-drops or less do we get? Is this something that's worth playing? So it has some value from strictly a deck building standpoint.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Now, a card that I am very excited about, probably don't know if I'm right or not, but there's a few different decks. Obviously, you can go in the Golbez deck, but it's just a very nice effect. And we had this mention about just 2-drop 6Ks that might be a little bit lacking or what have you. But I think that this finally has some potential. Now, the downside is it only deals half its damage and power, but when it gets from Breakstone to field, it's going to do 8K. He gets 8K power, he's going to deal 4K. So this is a card that, and keep in mind that we have 6 copies of it now because we got one in Opus 2 as well. It's either blocking or attacking, and it's going to take whatever it wants with it because it's going to do a combination of 10. Now, if your opponent has Minwu or something, that's unfortunate. But I think this is a very, very strong, especially for a rare. All the Archfiends actually seem like very strong cards. I really want to see this card see play.
Yeah, I really like the idea of playing this in an Earth-Wind deck where you're playing Anacro and Maria. Because obviously, if you can ramp its power up, then obviously you can take out stronger things. Even with you could be really cheeky and you can chain Golem to him coming back, and he's stronger and therefore can take out something bigger than he should be able to. So I think that because he meshes well with a lot of the cards that are already good in those kind of decks, he does have potential. Like they, and Opus 2 Scarmiglione was decent as like a one-off, like because back attack as it's known in this, or flash as it's known in Magic, is a very strong ability. But I think now that it has something worth backing up, it's nice.
Right. I fully expect this card to see play in some deck. I'm not sure exactly what that list is going to look like, but just the ability, and Living Dead is free, which is obviously, if it even costed one, I would say it's unplayable, but it just gives you something to do with the extra copies and is going to kill something.
It will make your opponent think twice before attacking you, which is something that Earth should be doing.
Exactly. So I'm super excited.
I'd like to experiment with it, certainly.
And the other thing that's worth mentioning too, then, assuming that was their first attack, he comes back as an 8K, so it's probably going to shut off the rest of your opponent's attacking.
It'll ward off something else, yeah.
So I'm...
No, I scar him. I think he's pretty good.
The next card we have is Segwardes? I never played World of Final Fantasy, so I am guilty of not knowing.
Segwardes?
Yes.
I had a bit of an issue with my PS4 and deleted all my save data recently, and I was halfway through World of Final Fantasy when it happened, and I was not happy. So I will go back to it, but I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name either.
Yeah. I put it all on a slide together when we get to Brandalis, which is just amazing artwork for the record. So we won't spend too much time on this. You can make something lose for a strike, which is continues to be a theme in Earth, which I don't know how relevant that's going to be unless you're playing Brandalis. So,
Yeah, I mean, Brandalis is an interesting one. I mean, I'm sure we're going to talk about it more when we come to him himself, but I think that he's more interesting than he looks.
Brandalis or this one for the ability to lose for a strike?
All three of them together. One of the things that I did want to note about them is that they're all knights. So you can search for Duke Goltana.
Good catch. I did not consider that.
And obviously, with Brandalis being a searcher himself, that's some card advantage you can gain there in Earth Lightning, because they all search for each other. And the other knights that you can search for, one of which is coming up fairly soon, I'm sure, they're all good. Like Ramza and Opus 1 is really good. There's you can't... There's a lot of search potential. I don't know whether the Brandalis trio is going to see a lot of play, but I think it has potential to.
Right.
Purely on the back of the fact that you could just generate card advantage crazily.
So, right. We'll discuss it a little more when we get to Brandalis.
Yeah, no worries.
These next cards I'm just going to kind of skim through, mostly because I think that they're terrible.
But there aren't enough of them for them to matter.
Right. So, and I hadn't played Dirge of Cerberus, so I don't even know a reference. Apparently, they all love Vincent.
They're very throwaway characters.
Right.
They're just not very important.
So, the one side note I will make, if you combo this in Mono Earth, and if you have Anna Cress, whichever,
right.
They get better and they have a somewhat relevant power total, but again, not totally in love with it. So
they're standard units. You can buff them with Warrior of Light.
Yeah, but then you have to do Earth, Water.
And then you're playing Warrior of Light.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a very good point, but I think, at least from the Wind set review that we did, at least from what I've seen so far, I'm still very much on the Wind Water hype train for standard units. So, 2-drop 6K, it can get itself bigger and brave. Then we have the backup, which can protect your commander. And then we have the commander himself, that if you control Vincent, he gets plus 1,000 power. You can make him a 3-drop 8K. And this is why I mentioned the backup. You can make him a 3-drop 9K, which is really nice. And then he gives your other WRO members plus 2,000 power. But again, there's only one forward that he's buffing. So it seems a little bit underwhelming overall.
Yeah.
So anything you want to add about the trio? Otherwise, I'm just going to give them a
hard
pass.
Particularly. They're certainly not something I would be particularly fussed about playing, honestly.
All right.
They're a much better Earth cards.
And to the bin they go. Okay, so I'd only... the other thing I'll note here is I still haven't really looked in-depth in the spoilers. I haven't had time to start doing deck theory crafting and what have you. And this is a card that I just don't know how to evaluate it. I strictly don't.
I tried it, and I don't like it. Is this Zeramus?
Yes.
Yeah, I've tried it. I found that The only way that I think he's good is if you were to play the Dark Knight route of Mono Earth, where you're like using Fusoya and things to damage
Exactly.
yourself, so you're getting more power out of getting hurt. Because Zeramus is a dead card early game. Like it does nothing unless you're at like 3 or 4 damage plus. The card does literally nothing. And if you're at 3 or 4 damage plus, and your opponent isn't, you're on the back foot. So he might. The fact that he has an EX burst means that he's playable at all. I would like. It's very, very rare for me, or very hard for me to recommend playing this card out of your hand because it costs 7,
Yeah.
and your opponent gets to choose what dies, which
Yep.
is not good. Yeah, I wanted to like it because it sounds crazy. It's like in EX burst, I get to pick a guy out of my bin and you kill one. That's just massive swing in momentum. But his CP cost and the timing in which you have to play him mean you have to spend too much time fussing about to be able to play him well.
And I think you bring up a very good point too with Fusoya, and that just had completely didn't even consider it yet. And also, look if we look at things like Goblin, Earth has this theme to it of just taking a lot of damage early on and trying to get value out of it. And I think the biggest barrier to this card is that your opponent picks. If I could get to
Yeah,
pick what I'm killing, I would give it a little bit more love. But again, it's a 7 cost. So sure, you're
it's
gonna
yeah, it's there's too many variables.
exactly.
Is my massive criticism for it. It's just there's too many variables. It relies on the amount of damage you've taken, the cards that are in your bin, the forwards your opponent has being weak enough for him or low cost enough for him to be able to kill them, and your opponent has to only have 1 or 2 of them out that's worth killing. So it's just there's too much going on.
Yep. I'll probably throw it as like a one of in a deck just because it has potential, but again, at best, it's going to be a 5 drop because you get something back. But again, it just feels terrible. I hope someone can make this work just because I think it is. It wants to be a very strong effect. Again, I think it just
Yeah.
might be too situational.
I mean, to be fair, I only picked up my copies of the cards yesterday, so I haven't had a huge amount of time to play them all either. But it's, I just wasn't keen on it. That's all.
Fair enough. Um, Now, a card I think everyone agrees is just absurd. I was talking to Band Final Fantasy Corner a little bit about this card. If I'm not mistaken, he said it was entirely playable when it was in chapters. It either didn't change or changed very little. It's still absurd, and I fully expect this card to see a lot of play. Like the only possible drawback that this card has is that it doesn't have an S effect, but I think that would have just entirely put it over the top
I
in
actually
terms of
think there's
legendary.
two. I actually think there's 2 drawbacks to this deleter, despite the fact that he is obscenely powerful. I think that 3-drop deleter was very, very important to Earth decks because it allowed you to repeat Ralbarn, it allowed you to
Yep.
repeat Shenotto if you needed to. And obviously, with the fact that he shares a name with this card, you're probably going to want to run this card, which means you can't run the other one. So, I mean, you will have to change your Earth decks to cater to not having that deleter available. But look at him. He's extraordinary. He is extremely powerful. I would argue he's the best card in the set. I would argue. I think a lot of people would argue that he's the best card in the set. However, and I've done card of the week videos on this guy. I've included him in my reviews and things like that. He is fallible. There's no reason to go around screaming doom and gloom about him because there's tons of ways to kill him. Some of which are in this set. If Ice has been gone over already, and Zalera rips this guy's head off.
Yep.
Absolutely rips his head off. 2-drop Ninja from Opus 2, which is a card I always thought was really good, and no one seemed to play. Absolutely dicks on him. Dorgan in Wind ruins him because it doesn't matter that he dies. There's a lot of answers to this card. So yes, he's very, very powerful, but don't panic over it. Deal with it.
Right. And I also love that Water has Famfrit too to potentially get around it. So there's again a lot of ways to interact with this
Yeah,
card and not
that
feel terrible about it.
the other thing to note is that the ruling that he can trigger off of an EX burst is true. However, if you were to Odin him off the top and kill him, you'll still take another point of damage. However, I think that this is yet another reason that I love 5-drop Yuna as much as I do. He does nothing to her because it's coming from a character and she's already dead.
Oh, yeah.
So I absolutely, I mean, I
Interesting.
swear by 5 CP Yuna. And now there's even more reason to run her because, and like, all the things. One of the scariest things about this card is the things that you can do, like next to him. Having a board of Vincent and Deleta next to each other is terrifying, but you can still break it. You can still get around it. Just don't panic about it. Is my advice, I guess.
Right.
Sorry, I get quite passionate about these things.
No, and it's quite right. I think the other thing that a lot of people are going to gravitate towards immediately is also the Knights deck, which was previously Lightning Water. So then there's this big discussion that needs to happen. What direction do you take that deck? Do you really value the new Ramza, which we'll talk about in a future video? I'm really interested to see in what direction that the Knights deck will go. So it's worth knowing that he can very easily become a 10k or 11k if you really want to, and just make him near impossible to best in forward combat.
And unfortunately, while Golem and stuff is a really good answer to him, he can run Golem too because it's Earth.
Yep.
So just be careful when you go into combat with it.
And then the last thing on this card, the artwork is beautiful. I absolutely love it.
Oh yes, 100%. All of the FF Tactics artwork in these last couple of sets have been lovely. Like Agrius in the last set, Ramza and Deleta in this one, top notch.
And I hope that this is going to look well in a foil. I can see this going either way.
Trust me when I say this, it does.
Whew. All right, I'm very excited for that. Going on then, we have the girl who forgot her name. Enters field, search for a category World of Final Fantasy IV and add it to your hand. So this does give us either Lan or Brindelis. I already forgot his name because I'm terrible.
Seraphy as well.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, Seraphy. But those are the only 3, right? I think there was only a few forwards.
Yeah, there aren't many. There aren't many.
So right now, I'm going to give the card a pass, only because it doesn't do enough, and the Earth backup slots are very competitive as is.
Yeah.
But I would, again, anytime we have a searcher, you have to kind of keep it in mind. Just anytime a new set comes out, okay, do we get any new World of Final Fantasy cards? Do we get any summons, which we'll see with Rydia? There's a lot of things like that you have to consider.
All searches are future proof.
Yep.
All searches, including the more specific ones. You don't know when another copy of, someone specific, like another Lan, might come out, which would target both his sister and her. You just don't know what's going to come out, so it's always worth keeping hold of them.
So certainly get your foils to it, as we'll say, especially because let's say in 3 sets from now we get just an amazing World of Final Fantasy forward. It's probably going to be hard to find this card as a foil for someone that wants to play max rarity in their decks and what have you. So you might only need 1 or 2, but it's just worth if you're going to spec on it and you don't have to worry about getting it later, just pick it up now. It's only a rare. It shouldn't be that expensive as a foil. Mm-hmm. Ninja, which I don't have anything good to say about it.
No, we're talking about backup space being competitive in Earth. 2 CP units under Earth, there's so many good ones. Monk, Machinist, the Summoner that we went over a little while ago. There are much, much better ones than this.
Tama is also really important.
Tama's a good one.
So, not much to say about it.
Should we just say no and move on from this one?
That's fine. Hard pass. Berserker, so a 3-drop 8k. Again, I
actually really like this.
Yes, I love it. Again, probably a little bit more towards Mono Earth just because. But it's also a standard unit, which again brings us back to this idea of maybe there is something with Earth Water standard units. I think the card's strong enough.
I don't like the standard unit decks personally. I know you do.
You are breaking my heart. Absolutely breaking my heart.
I don't like them because I think they're too reliant on specific cards, specific forwards.
Completely
being
fair.
Specific. However, I think if you get a Maria down and an Enna Crow, which again I'm a big fan of Wind Earth at the moment, this girl is 10k for 3. That's nuts. Yeah, all right, she has to attack every turn, but so you're going to be attacking with her anyway. It's a 3 CP unit that can combat 4 and 5 CP units, which is just strong. Well, in my opinion, it is anyway. I mean, I don't know if everyone's going to love this card because of the fact she has to attack, but I think anything that's above the curve. Like, I really liked Rubicante and Opus 2, and not a lot of other people did. But for the same reason, I really like this one.
Yeah, I'm just going to agree with everything there. I think there's just when we're
What,
in
even the
Earth.
standard units?
What's that?
What, even the standard units?
Oh, okay, minus that part, because you're breaking my heart. No, but again, we have Golem, we have Monk. There's so many things in Earth alone that makes
Yeah.
this card trade up with 4, 5, or 6 drops that just make it amazing. Now that said, you bring a very good point with Wind. I would like to see Wind Earth, and I think Maria is just going to be just a given with this. Like a 3-drop 9K at a minimum, I am very excited for. So
Yeah.
I can definitely get behind that. So speaking about the other legendary that I'm pretty sure just gets completely overshadowed by Delita, we have Prish, and
I was not best pleased when I opened Prish. I won't lie. She's she's not even pretty.
no, no, not at all.
No, no, I was like, I know that I'm being really, really kind of shallow, but no.
Yeah, they could have picked a better art. So let's try to save this.
She has
It
Brave.
it's
She goes in the
brave.
Brave
It's a
deck.
9K, and when it dies, you can put either Prish into play off of it, which is nice, and it does have an S effect, although costly. Um, so it has a lot going for it. I would not be surprised if we see like some Prish dot deck Earth deck out there. I just wish this card had a little bit
Excuse me.
more going for it.
I think the issue with her is that both her and the other Prish cost 5+,
Yep.
and the effect that it's asking you for is asking you to run lots of her, and you're not gonna want to run lots of her when you have units like Deleter around. You're just not gonna want to. It's, the other Prish had started falling off of play. I mean, I played her in Opus 1, and honestly, I wish I didn't. She's okay. She wasn't that great. Um, and this just asks for more CP than you're willing to put in.
Yep. Again, I think it can be. There's probably some deck out there with this card. I'm not. We are not trying to downplay at all that yes, it's a very strong effect that you get to play another 6-drop for free. The special is certainly good, even if it costs a little bit. But when you consider Delita, which is
It
what that
also it also doesn't help that a lot of people are playing counters to things like Golbez and stuff like that already. So like the Una I mentioned earlier, and there's a lightning card in this set that does a very similar thing. And unfortunately, because they're targeting stronger guys, I think Golbez is actually a really good point. Those cards counter push as well. But the point I'm making is that for 6 CP, I'm expecting something like Golbez, and this is not a Golbez.
right.
That's the simple and nasty of it, I guess.
So we'll see. Again, I think it's cute how both this and what was the American version called? Horror of Antiquity, I think is
Yeah.
what it's called. It's cute that they're both kind of trying to do the same thing, so you get this, just recurring value. But I think you're just using up too many deck slots to try to make this
Yeah.
better than what it is.
LeBlanc syndrome.
Exactly.
God, I wish she was good.
So then we have Brandalis, which, and I put a quick note out here on the slide. So potentially, if you have the trio together, it is a 8,000 power first strike in Brave, and it's also worth mentioning that it is an EX burst.
Hmm.
So,
That,
and it's a
like I
knight.
said, we've got a lot of search capability with this guy. Like a lot. You have a forward that searches a backup that searches a forward. That kind of train. You can have Duke Goltana search for Brandelis or Steiner, or there's so many knights now that a knight. I mean, I've tried to touch on knights before, having looked at other people building them, and I was so impressed with them that now I keep looking out for other knights. And Brandelis is a little weak. It's not the strongest thing in the world, but having a 8K brave attacker that's searchable and can search for other things and has an EX burst is nice. It's like, no, he's not game breaking, but I also like to think that he's not really a 5 CP unit. Any
Exactly.
5 CP unit that searches, I like to think is 2 CP less than it looks like it is, because you're recovering the card back. If that makes sense.
Right. And it also helps with deck thinning, assuming you already have both those in play.
Exactly.
It helps make something in your hand cheaper for the next turn. It's very interesting to see what direction this goes. So I think in your if you're trying to put this in just a Earth-based deck, just because I would personally believe that's incorrect to do so. But if you're trying to make a deck built around knights, so where you get those extra searchers, you get the extra. Maybe you're playing Ovelia, I believe, is a card that gives them all plus 1,000 power. Like I love this card if you think about it as, and it takes a lot of work to get there. I admit that.
It's a little bit Voltron-y.
Right, exactly. But potentially,
I mean,
a 5-drop 9K with First Strike and Brave.
I
I'd
mean,
sign me up.
Yeah, do I think that the card is game breaking? Not in the slightest. However, I think to write it off would be naive.
Exactly. I think that's a very good way of saying it. I don't don't have much more to add on to that. Actually, that's perfect. That you got it. So then, and then we have Pelennor, which I guess we don't need to spend a lot of time on.
Actually, I would like to make one note on Pelennor. I do think there is something about Pelennor that I think a lot of people haven't noticed, and somebody actually brought this up to me earlier today, so I can't take full credit for this. When you get to water, there is Famed Mimic Go-Go that relies on having taken damage before its S ability can kick in. You also have Queener, which requires the S abilities that kick in. Pelennor deals 1,000 damage to all forwards, including ghouls. So you could use Pelennor to make it so that your Famed Mimic Go-Go's and your Queeners can start absolutely ripping your opponent's board apart.
Is that good enough, though?
No, I don't know. I don't know. But it was a really cool interaction that I thought I would point out.
Yeah, I will admit I completely missed that. I think it's very cheeky.
It's one of those nice, cool things.
Right. And so, all right, if we're going to mention that, I would be remiss to not mention the playability for this in Wind as well. If you combo it with Opus to Barbarisha, where you can just deal almost 1,000 damage. All your opponent's forwards only have 1,000 damage left. You can then combo with this, do the last little bit. Again, it's very resource heavy to make that happen.
It's silly. It's hardly competitive.
Right,
but I
exactly.
Thought it was
You're gonna feel great when you actually pull it off. So
yeah, it's silly.
I think your point to the Earth Water is going to be better though. I am gonna kind of maybe look into that a little bit more now.
Oh well, no, it's not like crazy. It's just something I thought was quite fun and silly.
Well, I love those kind of decks, so I'm going to visit it. Now we have Yang, which again I could be completely biased, so I'm going to say this up front before anyone just rips me apart. I could be totally wrong about this.
Okay.
I really love this card. I've been wanting to have something beyond just Al Cid to push the tempo for Earth Lightning, to put you in a position where you don't have to play Golbez. And the power that Yang can bring, yes, it requires you to have Ursula. I understand that. But to have potentially 2 9Ks on the board when you play Yang for 4, and then that he's going to get Brave as well. And his kick is worth noting that it might be decent in combination with other things, but I think you're just playing this for Yang to get it for free, and then Ursula has the ability to ping something for 9,000. I want to see this card see play. I think that it is potentially insane for a rare common combo that I think it's worth investigating. I don't think I'm not going to say that it's ultimately going to be, the most broken thing ever. I love that they both have S effects as well that can be entirely relevant. I want to see where this card goes.
I think that, to play devil's advocate, I think your comparison with Al Cid is, the problem with that is that Al Cid has an immediate impact on the board when he comes down. Yang doesn't. They don't they both have to dull for their S abilities. I mean, yeah, you're right. You make a blockade if you have Ursula down. Yang has to ask for something specific, whereas Al Cid doesn't. And obviously, the Al Cid Onion Knight combo removes a guy from your opponent's board. Playing a Yang and an Ursula is just kind of playing a Yang and an Ursula, if that makes sense. I think you're right, and I think there is potential for exploration with these two. But I think because they're too specific, that I did say at the beginning, when we went over Ursula, I have a bit of an issue with anything that asks for any card that's specific, unless you have loads of searches for them, like the Unariku Pain combos. It's not my first port of call, but I can understand why you like it.
Right. What I really want to get back to is the kind of Gapal type of decks, and maybe it only belongs in Ice, but to the point of Al Cid's going to remove something, gives you 2 forwards. Ying's going to come in, give you 2 forwards. I think it just sets up for having this kind of flood the field effect into elements that you can then bring it up with a Gapal. Maybe you have a very timely 4-drop CP Lightning. You get to play a Mon, remove some blockers. I think it just has the ability to, I guess to put it this way, to compare it to the Ice Lightning, tempo deck. The Earth deck is going to focus more on, or the Earth side is going to focus more on powerful forwards, where the Ice is going to have to heavily rely on the dull effects and maybe some discard as well to get advantage. So which one of those is going to be better is yet to be seen. I will recognize that Ice Lighting is probably still better. I don't think that deck is going anywhere.
I think Ice has gained a lot from this set though, like a hell of a lot.
Yeah, and I want to see a different tempo kind of flood the field type of deck besides Ice Lightning. Yeah, Ice Lighting is just absurd. I don't think we're gonna get away from that anytime soon.
Fair play.
And then for our last card, we have Rydia, which I'm gonna just say it. If you're not playing one of this in your Earth-based deck, you are wrong. You are just wrong. I don't care.
It's very difficult to argue with this card, to be honest. It's like it's so general. Like searches in FF are usually very specific. Like even to like the point where you're searching for a category of a forward, like Jesse searches FF7, Mog 13 searches FF13, Girly Forgotten Name searches World of Final Fantasy, blah 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 blah. They're still quite specific. Rydia is just comes in, summon.
Yep.
Comes in, summon. I like this bitch.
Yep.
She good. I mean, like it's even in I mean, I actually think that the 4 CP Rydia from Opus 2 had a slightly different issue. Is that she was 4 CP. She did have an EX burst, in all fairness, but you had to have already discarded the summons to do so. Whereas this is a lot more viable as a turn 2 play. And I really like the idea of hunting down, if you're playing Earth Fire, hunting down a Bahamut. I mean, I know Bahamut's not particularly good anymore, but you could hunt down a Bahamut just so your opponent knows you've got it and is threatened. Or searching for an Odin under Earth Lightning and just going, I've got this, what are you going to do about it?
And I like that it opens up the doors for those more one-of summons. So if you play this too early, then you might not always get it, but it makes me want to believe in Zero Miss, just because if you see this mid-game, you've probably taken 3 or 4 points of damage, then you can search for the Zero Miss, which again, you want to hit off an EX burst. I understand that, but maybe you're in some board state where it's really going to help. Just having that option to do so is great, even if it's not probably the best thing that you can be doing with it. Grabbing the
you say Zero Miss. I'm hoping that Valor finally gets his day in the sun.
Hey, I could get behind that too.
I'm absolutely 100% hoping that Valor gets his day in the sun, because it's like, okay, I have this like board wipe. Don't overextend. Just by them knowing you have Valor, they're not going to push themselves. Whereas you can just go nuts. You can just do your thing, but they know you have it unless you discard it. Then obviously you've dropped it. But you know what I mean, though. I just, I've wanted to like Valor since he came out, and I still think that there is room for him somewhere. And maybe being able to search for him is the target, is the clincher, because you'd never want to run more than one of him.
Right. Nope. I can definitely get behind that. So we are running towards the end, and normally I pick 4 cards I think are the best in every rarity. I didn't like Earth. It was either too close between what I would pick, or it was just too obvious with Delita taking a legendary spot, for example. So,
No. Prish is clearly better.
Oh, stop it!
How dare you? Bitch, please.
So,
all right.
I will say, in my opinion, these are my cards that this is the first time I'm going to detract from our normal kind of, keep your eye on these 4 cards, what have you. These are my picks that I really want to see play, and it could be just terribly wrong, but we'll see. So Delita obviously gets a legendary pick. That one's just kind of a given. For Hero, I went with Zero Miss, only because I think it's a really strong effect. It's just too situational, but if maybe someone gets the Fasoya Gobrinth kind of deck like engine going, I think it has just absurd potential possibilities. Again, it's just very painful to try to make that work.
I think that my hero pick would actually be Brandelis, just because I think he has the most kind of wiggle room for weird, wonderful things to happen.
Yeah, I think if I had to pick what is going to be seeing the most play out of him, it's certainly going to be that, because it just goes so well in the Knights deck. I don't know what that Knights deck looks like.
No, neither do I. But like I said, I pick him because I want flavor and weirdness, not necessarily like the super competitive. And there is no obvious pick for hero for competitiveness. So, because none of them that great.
And then for my rare and common, again, It's probably completely wrong, but damn it, I just want this to happen. I picked Yang and Ursula. I don't think that they're going to hold up in the end. I really, really want to see these two cards do something in this next set.
If I may,
Yep.
mine would be Scarmiglione and Berserker.
Yep.
Because I think Scarmiglione I think is just like one of those backdoor cards that is like you don't see it coming, and then oh wait, it's ripped my head off. And Berserker, I think it's above the curve, so I like it.
Yep, I think both those are probably more realistic picks. Again, this is so. Thank you for bringing that to the video, just so people don't. I'm sure people are going to crucify me for these three terrible picks, anyways. But I think
no, they're not terrible. They're just. I was going to say it's all about flavor. It's not all about that. You know,
sure.
Yang and Ursula, you don't know. So like they could just turn around and just rip. Like I said, it's backdoor. You don't know. Someone could just rip your head off with it.
I'm very hopeful. Very, very hopeful.
And there are more than one Yang.
True. Very true.
There is still hope for that.
And so even then, okay, I will make a slight detract then because you mentioned that. The other thing I could see is the 2-drop Yang that can potentially become a 9K, I believe, in Mono Earth if you have the backup. It's 8K or 9K potential. So you have
it's 5 the 2-drop 5C 2-drop 5K forward. That gets 2K if you have a monk out.
So
2K and Brave if you have a monk out. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Hold up. Yeah, I've got it. Hold on, I can get it up really quick.
So
I actually have it right here.
With that note, I think there is some, you could play this more very Mono Earth aggro-y type of deck as well, because there's just so many. And then you play Berserker, of course, as well. And then you can play Golem for attacking. There's this very aggressive curve that can probably happen in Mono Earth.
What job does Ursula have?
She's also a monk, so she will buff the 2-drop.
Monk other than Yang, then Yang gains 2K power and Brave.
Okay, I can definitely get.
So that's an option. That's an option. You could just run 2 guys that just happen to buff each other.
Okay, that might.
Because Ursula's on curve. She's 6K.
Right, exactly. So we can hope.
Yeah.
And of course she has the S effect as well, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our set review again on Joesephyr. Thank you so much for joining me on this video. Hope you guys don't mind that it ran long. I know it's kind of the trend that we have for these, so thank you very much for watching all of this.
Because you brought me on here and I don't shut up.
No, I really did enjoy this. I think it was very, very nice. So again, please check out his YouTube channel. I'll put a link down that in the description in the comment section as well. Make sure to like this video if you let us know if you liked it. In the comments section, you could rip me apart, tell me that I'm so wrong on all of my Earth picks. That is fine, but no, tell us what your favorite Earth.
Or you could just shower him with love.
No, that won't happen.
You just like send him kisses in the mail. That's what I do.
And those are always the best to get. So yes, let us know what your favorite Earth card is. Make sure to subscribe, all that good stuff. So again, thank you very much for watching, guys. And on behalf of Joesephyr and 6 Sages Gaming, thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next 6 Sages Gaming video. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
This video made possible by the patron support of viewers such as yourself. Thank you to our honorary sages.